I'm Dr. Fiona Lovely, and this is the Not Your Mother's Menopause podcast. I'm taking the taboos of menopause and perimenopause and bringing light to the dark. No bullshit, no shame. It's time for us to gain a new paradigm in female health, out with the old and in with the new, and I'm bringing fresh perspectives from someone in the arena. I've been practicing women's health for nearly 20 years, and I'm spilling the tea on what it means to live at midlife, knowing that the best is yet to come. I'm sharing my Gen X approach to living through this transition. Sassy, a bit sweary, and always honest. Tactical tips and instantly usable information is my aim. I hope to make you laugh and that you learn something new that helps you embrace the change. Together, we bring power to the peri. Onward to the podcast. Hey listeners, I'm Dr. Fiona Lovely. This is the Not Your Mother's Menopause podcast, and I'm so glad to have you here for this really interesting and juicy conversation today. I've just finished up chatting with Sarah Kennedy, CEO and founder of Calocurb, and we had a conversation about weight management and appetite modulation and the application of this at midlife, perimenopause, and menopause, because studies show that women gain on average 22 pounds during their perimenopause transition. And as Sarah mentions, you would have to reduce your calorie intake by 200 per day for 10 plus years in order to not gain that weight. There's a lot of things that happen for women in the perimenopausal era in terms of how body composition changes, how stress changes, how sleep changes, etc. And all of these things change how we eat. What an interesting conversation where we get into the conversation around GLP-1. Sarah actually tells us what it actually is. It exists in our body naturally. And there are things that we can do to stimulate it naturally. And this is a really important time to be having that conversation, because there's a lot of reasons why people may want to have appetite modulation, but for whatever reason don't want to be taking the medications that can put the synthetic or exogenous GLP-1 into the body. So that is essentially what this conversation is about. And Sarah's company has created the ultimate capsule, if you will, for delivering the right substance to the right place in the body at the right time. And that's what Calocurb is all about. But we really talk about the science of hunger. And we both share our stories of willpower and being told that weight management was about keeping your mouth shut, or, oh my God, I've heard it all. I feel like I've heard it all in my life, or calories in, calories out. And that's such a short-sighted way of looking at it. Women's physiology is deeply hormonal and affected by many things, and to not consider those when we're talking about weight management is absurd. And actually, we need time. It's time for us to have a space of compassion around weight management. And actually, Sarah said it best. She said, you know, what we're learning from these injectables is just how much there is involved in the obesity or extra weight conversation. So if you want to hear why it is you get hungry, why it is you have the cravings you do, and what the heck you can do about it, whether you're taking an injectable or not, this is the conversation for you. Sarah Kennedy is the founder and CEO of Calocurb Limited. Calocurb, a revolutionary weight management product, was commercialized after 15 years and $30 million of the New Zealand government-backed science. The company currently sells in 5 international markets and continues to grow rapidly through channels and geographies. Sarah was formerly with Frontera and held roles as Vice President International Farming based in China, Managing Director of Dairy Nutrition, and Managing Director of RD1, Research and Development 1, Fonterra's chain of rural retail stores. Prior to joining Fonterra in 2011, she had more than 20 years experience in dietary and animal nutrition. She is originally a veterinarian by training and has held a number of other senior executive positions in agribusiness and food industries. This is a great conversation. I know so many of you will find this useful, and Sarah gives us choices here. Maybe there are things that we can do to actually help our own appetite and cravings with or without one of the fancy new medications that are handling this for a lot of people. So without further ado, enjoy my conversation with Sarah Kennedy of Calocurb. Protein and healthy muscle are the organ of longevity. Do you struggle to put on muscle, lose weight, or get enough protein each day? It's a common concern, but there's help. I prefer Kion Aminos to get my daily essential amino acids. Kion Aminos ensures you're getting the essential amino acids from protein your body needs to rebuild muscle, recovery, keep energetic, and be strong. Kion Aminos is a clean source, transparent formula that gets mixed into water and tastes good. It's suitable for all diets, is gluten-free and dairy-free. It helps me feel full and hydrated and ready to go. I feel strong and I recover from activity quicker when my protein tank is full. Would you like to get better protein intake and supplement with Kion Aminos? Please go to getkion.com/lovely, where Kion is offering 20% off for listeners of the show. There's a risk-free 60-day money-back guarantee. That's getkion.com/lovely. And I'll drop the link in the show notes. Thanks, Kion. This is the Not Your Mother's Menopause podcast. I'm Dr. Fiona Lovely, and today I welcome Sarah Kennedy, founder and CEO of Calocurb. And you're here to discuss appetite modulation and weight management with the show. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Fiona. It's great to be here.
So we've already bonded over our cats who have come for this interview together. So Sarah, you're definitely welcome. Any cat person is welcome in my world, I say. Now, your area of expertise is weight management and appetite modulation. Wow, there's lots to unpack there. But first I want to ask you, how did you find yourself in the conversation around menopause?
Oh, well, of course, in menopause, having gone through it myself, and then understanding all the changes, and then particularly around weight management weight management during menopause is a fascinating topic. And I think many women are completely and utterly frustrated by it. They may have been told, well, that's just what happens, and there's nothing you can do about it. And as you and I know, there's weight distribution, there's weight gain. There's a lot of things happening.
Well, and so many things change for our physiology at midlife, and we do get the muscle loss, the fat around the viscera that starts to come on. And in fact, the SWAN study tells us, 22 pounds was the average weight gain for women during their perimenopause transition. And that is a significant number. And, where are our medical professionals talking about it or not talking about it? I find it's we're shouting into the void on this one, Sarah, for sure.
Yeah, it very much so. And, and people, they've managed their weight a lot of the time, most of their life, and then suddenly bang. And it's like, doesn't matter what I do. And I say to people, well, there's a lot of physiology going down, but, mostly, that's that estrogen drop, your metabolism is going down, as you said, there's distribution of weight, there's putting on weight, and so on happening. And what most people don't realize, which is so terribly unfair, you actually, they quote, you actually have to eat 200 calories less a day just to stay the same size. And often in perimenopause, you've got raging hormones, and that is just, it's like, who's going to do that?
Yes, absolutely. Not to mention how our insulin resistance changes at perimenopause, and now we have all these cravings that we may not have. We're dealing with pardon my French, Sarah. By the way, we do speak French on this show, so I was going to say we're dealing with a shitstorm of symptoms. Of course, you want to comfort eat. That's what women were taught to do. A lot of us have done that for a long time, myself included. And so, just saying to a woman, oh, just cut 200 calories and then you'll stay the same. Give me a break. Because, we've got this whole sandwich thing happening where we're at pinnacles in our career. We've got parents that are aging or elderly. We've got kids that are leaving the house to go off to school. It's just the perfect storm of stress for women at perimenopause. And so nobody's surprised at all to see the weight gain happen. But here we are. Now, I want to ask you about your research. You have done female specific research on appetite modulation.
Oh, that was a great piece of research. I was absolutely delighted with that. We did a appetite and craving clinical in women. A lot of clinical work is not done on women, specifically because we have hormones. Particularly premenopausal women, we have these hormones that fluctuate. So we did a clinical trial. It actually took, I think, 15 months because it was on 30 women, but we had to done over 3 treatments. So we actually, let's say it's 90 women, but it was 30 women done 3 times. And you had to get them in the exact same part of their menstrual cycle. So the exact same part and the exact same day of the week. And this was during COVID. So pretty difficult. The chief scientist, I think, he said he was nearly killed. But anyway, because he was nearly killed because the woman had to fast it was a 24-hour fast. And then they came in at 16 hours. And so at 16 hours, I hadn't eaten. It's a 24-hour water-only fast. And we gave Calocurb, our product, at 16 hours and at 20 hours. Now, at 16 hours and 20 hours, why did we give it then? Those are when you're going to be the hungriest in a 24-hour fast in that last 8 hours. And then they measured both hunger and craving. And they do that by what they call a visual analog scale. These are all double-blinded, placebo, everything like that. We got 100% decrease in increased appetite in women. So that is, when I say 100%, they were no more hungry at 24 hours than they were at 16 hours. But the one that absolutely blew me away, they got 120% decrease in craving. Now, so they were craving less at 24 hours than they were at 16 hours. The graphs look fantastic. They also, we gave them a calorie, not a calorie control, but a calorie specific meal at 24 hours, and they ate 14.5% less calories. So that sort of follows on from the decrease in hunger, the decrease in craving, and then the decrease in calorie intake. And this was fantastic because there's not a lot of clinicals. Well, about 30% of clinicals are done in women. So often we are treated like little men. Interesting enough, what we do know is that women are more sensitive to GLP-1 stimulation. And there will be reasons, or we believe there are reasons, and that it'll be to do with our metabolism, it'll be due to those things. But they also think it's because it's a protective mechanism for if you were pregnant. So this GLP-1 is protecting. Yeah, so this is why there's sensitivity. So yeah, I was really proud of that clinical and delighted with it because what does it show us? Well, I know we're here to talk about menopause, but premenopause during the luteal phase of the menstrual cycle, often it's called PMS, but women will eat up to 220 calories more Oh, on average, no, sorry, on average, women eat 220 calories more a day in the luteal phase and up to 600 calories more. Now, why do they do that? Once again, it's physiological. It's not comfort. It's your body saying, you may be going to fertilize that egg, so I want you to have all of this, go and get some more energy in your body in case that happens. You want to have that additional energy. So, this could give great control for craving of any thought, but certainly during PMS.
Oh, that's so interesting. What Sarah's saying, for the listeners, just to recap, is that the body is telling us in that luteal phase, which is between ovulation and when we bleed, that we need more resources because we could be fertilizing, or there could be an egg fertilized and it's looking to be implanted, etc. And so this is where the body's calling in more resources. And we take that in the form of calories. And Sarah's saying 220 calories up to 600 calories in the luteal phase. And we've
Yeah,
been calling it bloating, Sarah.
I
Seriously.
know, I know.
Oh,
And if a woman say, "Oh, I get this craving and I've got to eat," and it's not comfort eating; it is
no.
your body. What most people don't realize is that hunger and eating is actually a primal instinct. It is where it's biologically controlled, right? So your hunger is stimulates from your hypothalamus, so your hindbrain, and it was an asset during evolution. So I will tell you, when you reduce your calories by 25% a day, your hunger will double over 4 months. So you will be, because your hindbrain is saying to you, go out and eat, because it thinks you're going into a famine. So, everyone used to say, oh, it's willpower, it's willpower. Sure, you've got your frontal lobe there and your little frontal brain sitting there, and it's saying, I will not eat, I will not eat. And you've got these increasing hunger noises. You put stress, you put hormones, you put lack of sleep, you put alcohol, and boy, does that little frontal brain come off, and your hindbrain goes, woohoo, I'm off. How
Party.
many times? Oh, let's party. I
Yeah.
always say to people, how many times have you eaten hot chips late at night after you've had alcohol? It's just like, let's go and get those hot chips. It is because it's this alcohol or stress. So your hindbrain, now that was an asset during evolution because, of course, it made us get out of our caves. Otherwise, we'd all be lying in our caves going, you know what? It's a little bit cold outside. It's a little bit wet. I think I'll stay in. So, you go out and hunt. But now it's a liability for us. In developed worlds, we are surrounded by food. So your hindbrain is saying to you, and it's saying to you, hey, you can have that, you can have that, you can. It is not lack of willpower. I say it all the time. Our hunger is physiologically or biologically driven. So it is not your fault, but you
No.
can do something about it.
Well, and this conversation you bring up willpower is so interesting. I was born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s with a mother who was very much following what the diet industry was doing. And I come across this with my patients quite often, Sarah, where women can so easily get hooked into those old neural pathways that we learned when we were kids, watching our mothers essentially starve themselves to
Totally.
stay lean. And it goes up and down. Of course, we're trending with sometimes lean is better. I always find it interesting. I had a friend say this to me once, and I've never forgotten it. She said, isn't it interesting when women gain power in society, they bring back the skinny is best aesthetic? And I went,
Mm.
oh my gosh, somebody's in charge and paying attention. But, anyways, I digress. This whole willpower thing is such an interesting conversation because it never was that. It was biological impetus, and our hormones were just telling us, trying to regulate stress, trying to regulate not enough sleep, trying to manage a lot of things. And when you bring that to a woman's attention, it's a bit of an eye opener here, and it's a fascinating time to be talking about weight because You dropped the buzzword right there. You dropped the GLP-1 buzzword. So let me ask you some questions about your research on using with women, if I may. So
Yeah, sure. Well, sorry, Fiona, I will tell you about it. So it's a wonderful story. In 2010, a group of very talented scientists, now just about all, you probably recognize from my accent, I'm from New Zealand, but a group of very talented New Zealand scientists who were employed by the government. Just about all primary research in New Zealand is done by the government. So a group of they believed that they could find a natural plant-based extract that suppressed appetite. They put into the government, and they got a in that time, 2010, got a $20 million grant. There was about 15 million American at that stage. So they got that in. Now, why did they believe that they would find a natural plant-based extract that suppressed appetite? Well, actually, it came from history and then some early work that had just been done. History, in times of famine in the Scottish Highlands, Scottish people chewed very, very bitter berries to suppress appetite. In the Kalahari Desert, Kalahari tribesmen chewed very, very bitter cactus to suppress appetite before they went out on a hunt. So, what was happening there? And then some very early work had been done in some animal studies with bitter substances. So, why could bitter substances suppress appetite? Well, once again, it's a physiological adaptation of the body to protect us. So when you eat a bitter plant, you will spit it out. You have taste buds on your tongue. But if it goes down to your stomach, right, so say it's coated and it goes down to your stomach, you're likely to feel nauseous and vomit it up. But if it goes to your upper duodenum, you're going to stimulate, or your upper digestive tract, you're going to stimulate these little bitter taste receptors in your there to release appetite suppressing hormones, because because you can't vomit it up when it's in your intestine. So what your body is saying, don't eat any more of that. So it releases that. You've eaten enough, stop eating. So an evolutionary. So because bitter often meant toxic. And it's quite an interesting thing because plants and humans kind of evolved together. So plants make things bitter if they didn't want animals and humans to eat them. So you think of an apple tree, the leaves are very bitter because they don't want you eating the leaves, but the apples are very sweet because they want you to eat the apples because they want you to spread the seeds. So same with strawberries, same with many things like that. So kind of this animals or humans, plants evolved together. So these incredibly talented scientists took 300 biopsies from the from the humans, but right down through the gastrointestinal tract, and then found these bitter taste receptors and then mapped them out. So they mapped all of these bitter taste receptors. So we know we have them right through our intestinal tract. And then they tested them to make sure that these cells released these appetite suppressing hormones. So we knew this happened. They then went on and built a high throughput enteroendocrine model. So this sort of model, they mimicked the human intestine. And then they tested over 1,000 different extracts on this high throughput model. And literally only two extracts worked. One was a potato oxalate, which is great, but it's poisonous. So you'd be not eating, but you'd be dead. And then the other one came from hops. So hops that we use to flavor beer.
yes.
Now, it's not surprising that only two stimulated or activated the release of GLP-1 or these appetite suppressing hormones. Because if we reacted to this evolutionary mechanism all the time, we wouldn't eat when we had a cup of coffee. Anything bitter, we wouldn't eat. So, it's got to be really bitter to activate these cells. They then did a lot. They formulated it with a vegetable oil to make it disperse. They tested it on themselves. And then, so we knew this worked in vitro or in the laboratory, but they took it into the first human clinical. And that first human clinical, they had 20 men, all double blind once again. They had 20 men, and they cannulated them, so put in catheters so they could draw blood the whole time and measure these appetite-releasing hormones. They gave the bitter substance, which they call amarosate, which just means amara means bitter and sate means satiation. I mean, typical scientists. No one else can pronounce it, but they called it amarosate. Anyway, they gave that an hour before an ad libitum meal, and an ad libitum, eat to your full meal, eat to your full snack, and they measured the bloods, and they increased 3 appetite suppressing hormones by 600%. So the graphs are amazing. So you get this peak in CCK, which is a very, very potent, short-lived but potent appetite suppressing hormone. GLP-1, the buzzword, and then another one called PYY. So 3 appetite suppressing hormones, and then they measured calorie intake, and they depressed calorie intake by an average of 18%. So that was about 220 kilojoules. No, it was more than that, 220 calories. So so they knew it worked in the lab, and now they tested it on humans. So we could activate this mechanism in our body from our own, we could super stimulate the release of our own appetite suppressing hormones to help with calorie reduction.
Oh, that's amazing. So the idea is to consume the, what is the word?
Amarosate, the extract. So, which is an extract, comes from a specific variety of hops that is grown in New Zealand. We grow it in New Zealand, we extract it in New Zealand, but we actually encapsulate it in the US because we encapsulate it in a delayed release capsule. So it goes down and it opens opens just below the stomach in the upper digestive tract, disperses there, and then travels down, very, very targeted at the gastrointestinal tract, and travels down the gastrointestinal tract, firing these little cells as they go, releasing these hormones. And so it lasts for 4 to 6 hours. So really working with your body versus synthetically. And interesting, I don't know if people realize this, but we all release GLP-1. I mean, it is a natural feedback mechanism in our body. Anything will do that. But so I'll give you an example. When you eat, right, you eat something, it goes to your stomach, you digest it, and it goes into your intestinal tract. When it does that, your body will start to release appetite suppressing hormones because that's our feedback loop. Otherwise, we would pop, we'd just keep eating all the time. And you go, well, how do you know this? I will say to you, after you've had a big meal, and about 45 minutes later, you go, oh, I wish I hadn't eaten as much. That's your appetite suppressing hormones. And it doesn't tell us till 45 minutes to an hour later.
Oh, so late.
Too late.
Yes.
So by having parasite, we're telling you earlier. So how I said, take it an hour before an ad libitum, or an hour before lunch. They ate less. That's because we're telling you you're full faster because we're releasing, or we're super stimulating that release of these hormones at this level. Now, I also want to say there's so many things out there that go, oh, it helps with GLP-1 release, it does this. It does, but you have to be above 400% to make any behavioral change whatsoever. So when they go, oh, this fiber releases GLP-1, yes, it does, but it does it at about 65%. So it's not bad for you, but it's not going to do anything. You're not going to reduce your calorie intake because it's not going to be at a level where your brain goes, hey, I understand you're trying to tell me something.
Interesting. So we can see the trends. You and I talked about this a little bit to start. We can see the trends of, people who don't know much about medicine will talk about GLP-1s because we've all heard about, we've seen the ads on TV for Ozempic and these sorts of things. And we have a metabolic crisis for the I know this is true in North America. Is it true of Australasia as well? Is that true? Yes,
Yeah.
okay. And the UK will be lumped into that too. And I don't know where Europe stands on that. But, anyways, people want assistance with this. We're now in a place where we can talk about the concerns of obesity and carrying extra weight without hopefully the shame that there has been with it in the past. And I'm totally here for that conversation. I watched every female in my family struggle. I struggled myself with it too. And so I'm loving the conversation that's coming out of this, Sarah. We're really learning a lot about how appetite happens, why we get hungry, why we have the cravings, and how the psychology of all of this stepped in and told us that we failed ourselves. This is
Oh,
that whole, you
I
know,
get
yes,
the
yeah,
stigma. I came
yes.
from a family of four girls, and you talk about your mother. My mother was continually pinching her hips. Her Devonshire tea, so scones, and it was a dried crusket and some dietetic jam on it. So I've been through that. I know every diet in the world. And when you learn, it is actually a physiological, a biological response of your body and how you can control it, you suddenly have that power back.
Oh,
And let's
beautiful.
go to the drugs, the GLP-1. Look, these are fantastic. I have nothing. I absolutely have even. You know why? They took the stigma out of it. They explained and they educated on weight management. They actually told us before the release of the GLP-1 drugs, you went to just about any doctor and it was willpower, diet.
Yeah.
Now, yes, diet is still important, as is exercise, but let's get rid of that dogma about willpower. It is your body, and it is saying to you, I'm not giving excuses, I'm just saying it's your body. Think you're going into starvation. It is our hind brain telling us this. So,
Yes.
what our product does, well, it is owned by the New Zealand government, as I said. We're just working, we are, when you have a GLP-1 injectable, let's say it's Wegovy or it's Zepbound or one of those, you are injecting in a synthetic hormone, a synthetic GLP-1, which is what they
Mhm.
call it. And that synthetic GLP-1 is helping you because it's telling you, the brain, that you are full, you don't need to eat so much, and it's slowing down your gastric emptying. Fabulous. What our product does, which is called Calocurb, which has the active ingredient in it, it super stimulates, as I said, your own GLP-1. So it's stimulating your GLP-1 versus a synthetic GLP-1. So the kind of, the one is what we call exogenous, meaning external, and one is endogenous.
Okay. That's really interesting to hear that because what I heard you say in there is that they're not exclusive of each other. You can actually take both at the same time. So if someone is taking Ozempic or Mounjaro or one of the others, Zepbound and what's the one I'm missing? Wegovy. There we go. Some of them are available. They're not all available in Canada yet. By the way, Sarah, I just have to say this is so much fun. We're the Kiwi and the Canuck having a conversation today.
Well, interesting. Over the last week in New Zealand, Wegovy's just been approved. And it was
Okay.
just so perfect timing because I had three very high profile US doctors in New Zealand that we'd brought over because they've always used Calocurb. So it was a little bit of a thank you to them and to bring them to New Zealand. And at the same time, Wegovy was approved. So I had them on the radio, I had them on the television, just because, they used it in their practice. But just going back to whether it be an injectable or whether it be ours, which is a capsule, how the US or how doctors are using it in the US or practitioners is one of three ways. they're using it as an alternative. Now, as an alternative, if people can't take the side effects, because the side effects, we know for some people can be pretty tough, up to 67% gastrointestinal effects. They can't afford it because it's still quite expensive. It's like I think it's $600 a month now. And if they don't want to inject themselves. So they use it as this alternative. So they will use Calocurb then, which are these two tiny little capsules to work with your body. The other one that I'm finding fascinating is in combination. So they then can what they call microdose. So they can give, let's say it's a Zepbound or a Wegovy at the lowest dose. So instead of increasing that dosage each week or each month, they can keep it at a very low dose and they give Calocurb at the same time. So what you're doing then is you've got a small dose of the exogenous or the synthetic hormone and you're stimulating your own hormone. So you're doing it both, which is great. So you're reducing cost and you're reducing any side effects because it's at a very low level. And why that? And then the third way they're using it, which I think is a fantastic way, is they titrate people off the injectables because there isn't a solution for that at the moment. And Nova and Eli say, well, you've got to be on it for life. And if you're a diabetic, totally understand. But I'm yet to meet a practitioner that wants to stay, or want their patients to stay on for life. So as they get to their ideal weight or they feel they're in a space where they're good, as they're titrating them off, they'll put them onto Calocurb. Now, why is that? We know once again from clinicals that when you've been on an external hormone, your own hormone, so your endogenous hormone, has reduced to zero. Now, this is quite natural because, when you put in an external hormone, your body goes, hey, thanks, I don't need to make it myself. This is good, I'm off for a holiday. And whenever you take an external hormone, this happens. So when you come off one of these drugs, your endogenous hormones or your natural hormones are at zero. And we believe this is why a lot of people can get this weight rebound because your hunger will come back tenfold because you don't have that natural mechanism to come back. And there is a lot of, we call it anxiety, right? So I've given you a physiological explanation, but there is a psychological as well. People are very, very concerned about coming off the drugs. And you know what? They've got good reason to be concerned because they've got to re-stimulate that gut-brain axis. And so I say to practitioners, responsibly, it's not an if, it's a must. You must get that gut-brain axis and to help your patients because, that hunger, and they're going to be going, oh, this is, I don't want this to happen. I was in a really good space. So they're using Calocurb in this maintenance.
Well, it's interesting. We've got to have some opportunities for what happens when we come off the medications because there are a lot of people that take these medications. I have patients talk to me about it all the time. What's going to happen? I'm afraid. And so these same women will say, well, I'll just keep taking it. Now, here in Canada, you can get an Ozempic and Mounjaro prescription for somewhere between $200 and $350, something like that. In the States, I hear it's thousands is what I've been told. I don't know that for sure, but that kind of tracks with everything else we know about how that pharmacy industry goes in the United States. And so we've got to have tools, Sarah. I love this. We've got to have tools to help the body kick back in. It's like when a woman has taken a birth control pill for 10 years and then she wants to have a baby, you have to give the body yes, you have to give the body a chance to get back to its natural cycle. And for some women, that's difficult. That can take some time. It can take a year for that to happen. So you're saying the Calocurb gives us an opportunity here to have our own release or to stimulate the release of these appetite suppressant hormones, which is fantastic.
Well, we super stimulate them. We kick those L cells or those little bit of taste receptors back into working. You know how I said we would, they're like little, And our scientists believe at the moment, or the government scientists believe, we actually upregulate them versus downregulate them. So we're actually improving that gut-brain axis. So when I'm saying, so you think of them like they're little cells, like little muscles. The more you exercise them, the more powerful they're going to be. So we're actually into our fourth human clinical now, which is our largest. So it's 150 150 patients, men and women, over 6 months, with a 3-month follow-up. And they're both ones that are taking a placebo and taking Calocurb. We are measuring a number of biomarkers, but the key one is weight. Like you notice, I never talk about weight loss. I never talk about appetite and craving, because we know anecdotally people have lost, hundreds of pounds with us. We're not 100, what I'm saying, I lose weight, but over a lot of people. But in order to claim it, I need to have a clinical trial. So this is costing us $2 million. And the results will be out we'll finish in July, and the results will be calculated by about September, because it's got to go through statisticians and all the rest. So we're very excited about that, because we'll be measuring not only weight loss, but body composition, because we believe that you lose less muscle. There's a whole lot of things going on. You're losing less muscle. And I'm kind of hearing this from the scientists, because they do body composition every week with people. So they're doing DEXA scans with them in this clinical trial. So in 6 months' time, Fiona, I'll be able to say to you, not only can I help you with appetite, not only can I help you with craving and calorie control, we also show clinically that we help with both with weight loss and body composition.
Yeah, this is huge. As this is another one of the buzz things we're talking about right now in menopause medicine is sarcopenia, the age-related loss of muscle. Sarah, we know, you and I know as scientists here, we know how important maintaining muscle is. This is how we prevent frailty. And frailty is what takes our mothers, our grandmothers, our aunties. We've seen it happen. So we're not about to let it happen to us. And so we're out here saying, how do we make sure that we're keeping the muscle mass that we have? So this is an important part of the conversation.
Absolutely. So, and even if, you're using an injectable or a Calocurb to reduce your calories, make sure you are getting protein. Postmenopausal, perimenopausal woman should be getting around 120 grams of protein a day. Do you know how hard that is?
It's way hard. I do.
It's 6 grams. I ate my 2 eggs, for lunch. I've got 12 grams. That is not enough protein. I often say to women, hey, look, have a protein shake. It doesn't matter whether it's dairy-based or it's plant-based. That is the easiest way. You will get 30 to 40 grams of protein in. Just get it in. And it's like, oh, no, I don't want that. I'll have a big salad. A big salad is fantastic, but you're not getting your protein in there. So have a piece of chicken or have a piece of something like that. So yeah, absolutely. Protein and a bit of muscle resistance is just critical.
It really is. We're learning so much about that. Muscle as a longevity organ. That's really how I like to talk about it. And this is what we're hearing about it too. It literally has the ability to keep us youthful through a lot of different mechanisms. Hey there, Not Your Mother's Menopause listeners. Let's talk about something we rarely think about, but totally should. Nutrient absorption. You might be eating all the right foods, popping the right supplements, and still, your body might not be getting what it needs. Super frustrating, right? You see, the nutrients that fuel your energy, mood, memory, and even your sleep are some of the hardest to absorb. And let's face it, midlife doesn't exactly make it easier. Throw in stress, gut issues, meds, processed foods, and you're left wondering why you're still feeling blah. All is not lost. Have you ever heard of liposome encapsulation? It's like a nutrient delivery service with VIP access. Liposomes are tiny protective bubbles that safely shuttle nutrients straight to your cells, bypassing all of those absorption roadblocks. And when it comes to midlife must-haves, Live On Labs has you covered with their lipospheric supplements. Think ultra absorbable vitamin C, B complex plus, and their star player, lipospheric magnesium. That last one, it's basically brain fuel. Magnesium L-threonate is the only form proven to raise brain magnesium levels, helping with memory, focus, and relaxation. It means it crosses the blood-brain barrier. That's pretty cool. Plus, they added choline to support neurotransmitter production. Oh, and MTHFR, you say? You know who you are. The B Complex Plus has methylated folate, so you get exactly what your body needs. And here's the best part. Live On Labs is offering Not Your Mother's Menopause listeners an exclusive deal. Head over to liveonlabs.com/lovely. That's livonlabs.com/lovely and snag the midlife bundle. You'll get vitamin C, B Complex Plus, and magnesium for $56 off. Your cells deserve VIP treatment. Give them the nutrients they actually absorb and get ready to feel like yourself again. I like what you said there about have the shake. You know, the truth is, if we rely on appetite or desire for food alone, we won't get to 120.
Absolutely. So you've got to be conscious, and that's what I say to people. These are marvelous tools, these injectables, and taking something like Calocurb, incredible tools. But they are a tool in a toolkit. So you have to be mindful of what you eat. So you'll be eating less, but make sure it's got protein in it, make sure it's healthy, and just doing that. It is a tool in the toolkit. So make sure you're doing the other thing, because if you don't, you're going to lose as much muscle as you do fat. And as you said, then you get the frailty. And then your weight will bounce back again, and it won't be the muscle that bounces back, it'll be the fat.
Yes, yes. And it's far easier to keep the muscle you already have than to try to build new muscle at midlife and beyond. It's just a lot harder than it was when we were kids.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you. And it's hard. I mean, it's not hard to eat, but it's hard to keep thinking about, I've got to have that chicken breast, I've got to have whatever I'm going to eat. And we think a big salad is healthy, and it is healthy, but where's the protein in it? So
Yes.
just be really cognizant of that. That tin of tuna, that tin of salmon, a cottage
Put that
cheese.
on your salad. Put that on your salad. The tuna.
Put that on your salad.
Yeah.
Cut back on the mayonnaise and put that on your salad. Hey,
Absolutely.
I'm promoting your salmon companies here, but yeah, I mean that's what I do. I'm constantly trying to balance these macros in my diet.
Me too. And isn't it a relief now to eat for strength instead of eating for skinny?
Yeah, yeah, 100%, 100%. And you're right when you said, osteoporosis and sarcopenia is one of the biggest killers in women, because you fall over, break a hip, it's all over when you're older, because then it reduces your mobility more, you can't move, all of these types of things.
Yes, absolutely. And I do believe the number is in the first, is it 30% of women that will break a hip will die within a year of the hip being
Yes, it
broken?
is.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
it's
is.
a huge number. And yeah, we do talk about the musculoskeletal syndrome of menopause quite a bit on this show. So I'd like to think my listeners, I hope, are well informed on this, Sarah, for sure. But so
And it's not just about having strong bones, it's about having the muscles around them.
yes,
That's what you've got to have. Strong bones aren't enough. It is the muscles
yeah.
that you need. And you've got to keep, as you get older, as I said, sarcopenia, your muscles start to degrade. So you've got to give them a hand. It's once again, we're coming back to the physiology of your body.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I love the conversation about animals and plants evolving together with the planet. I mean, it's such a juicy conversation for me. That's like catnip. Let's talk about that more. Actually, I I want to ask you about sort of the logistics of dosing the Calocurb, please. So
All right.
first tell us if somebody is wanting to reduce appetite, reduce cravings, they're not taking anything else, they're not on a GLP-1 agonist or the incretins. How do they do this?
Yeah, it's literally they're two little small tablets. Sorry, not capsules. Two little capsules. They have the extract in them, which, as I said, comes from a hop. They have vegetable oil and a really small amount of rosemary, which acts as a natural preservative. So three plant-based. So it's vegetarian in this very small capsule. For what we do is we say for day one, take one capsule. Day two, take one capsule. Day 3 and 4, take two capsules, and then from day 5 onwards, depending on how your body responds, take two an hour before lunch and take two an hour before dinner. They're little wee tiny capsules. I say how to remember them. It's pretty easy. Like most people have a cup of coffee at about at about 10:30 in the morning, 10 o'clock. Take your Calocurb then. The other thing is, that mid-afternoon craving, you want something sweet, you think you need a pick-me-up, you don't. Take a Calocurb there. It will take you right through over lunch. You will still eat, you will just eat less. Take you right through dinner, you will just eat less. And remember, with the other big thing where it's really helpful is that after dinner snacking. For in front of television, I have a cup of tea, I'm going to have a biscuit, I'm going to have something like that. It will stop you because your brain is telling you you're full. So two an hour before lunch, two an hour before dinner. And why do we say that dosage or that updosing over a week? It's exactly like an injectable. Your body has to get used to it. It's a biologically active product. We are super stimulating the release of these appetite suppressing hormones. So your body has to get used to it. So just like it gets used to an injectable, it needs to get. So we just say that dosage regime or that onboarding takes about 5 days.
Okay. And if you are somebody that is taking, let's say, Ozempic or one of the others, you can also still take Calocurb and consider a microdose if you're working with a practitioner who can offer you. Let's use the word individual dose. I like that terminology better. I understand the word microdose has gotten into some legal ramifications. I don't know.
I don't really like microdose either because people think they can take it, like 2 days apart or one day apart. Do not do that. These drugs are designed to be used for 7 days. Their
Yes.
half-life is 7 days. You shouldn't be using them day on and day off. So I like what you're saying, individual dose, because
Yep.
let's not get it. So yeah, a low
Yep.
dose,
Yes.
and with Calocurb, and then you can tailor it yourself. Like I'd just take a Calocurb once again, maybe one before lunch, one before dinner. But if you find on day 5 and day 6, you're starting to get that hunger again,
Yes.
up your dose of Calocurb to two before lunch, two before dinner. It will take that whole food noise out of your head. It will curb your appetite. Calocurb, that's why I say it, that's its word. But, I will just tell you a quick story. You'll like that because
Please.
people say to me, "Oh God, how did you come up with such a naff name?" Yeah, well, it says what it does. But the other thing is, when you are developing a product that you're launching worldwide, you have to have a name that you can trademark. So, and that is not as easy as you think because you think of how many names are out there and how many things are globally. You've got to be able to name them. So that's where Calocurb comes from. Fiona would be interested. We have a patent over this as well. So we received our patent in the US, which is amazing. Patents take a long time. It takes 6 years to get our patent in the US. And I've been granted in Australia, pending in, or North America, I should say, pending in New Zealand and pending in Europe. So, yeah, it is patented as well. And I keep going back. I don't know if you trust the New Zealand government, but it is owned by the New Zealand government. And all of our science is done all of our primary research is done by New Zealand scientists. We do quite a bit of in-clinic work in America, but it's all of our primary research is done in New Zealand.
Okay, amazing. Finally, question about when somebody is deciding to go back to the logistics of dosing again. So now someone wants to come off of their injectable and they want to kickstart their endogenous GLP-1. This is when they go to that initial
Yeah.
dosing that you talked about, right?
Yep. Oh, yes. So when you're coming off at that week, you're going to titrate off, right? You've had your last injection, so your half life is coming down. So over that week, start your Calocurb that week.
Okay.
Absolutely, start the week you take your last dosage. So if you're not using it in combination, just take it that week before you come off, because or even 2 weeks, I would, because you want to super stimulate, super kick off that endogenous. Your endogenous cells will take up to 2 to 3 weeks to even start to come back. So, and start that, and that's why I said and we talk to so many people who have this absolute, they come off the drugs and they have this uncontrollable hunger. Now, that uncontrollable hunger is enough to knock you back off your path again. So you don't want to do that.
No.
You've been through this. You've been through this journey. Don't rebound.
No kidding. Last year I had a GLP-1 expert come on the show. And one of the things that she and I talked about was she felt strongly that there was actually a deficiency problem of GLP-1. But she said, and the problem is we can't test it. There's no way to test it. And so after hearing you speak about it, what I'm wondering if the deficiency isn't so much about the GLP-1 in particular, but the bitter substances are just absent from the diet because they taste gross, so we avoid them. So we're kind of coming back to where we started this conversation, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Oh, absolutely. We have reduced those things in our diet. But remember, this is an evolutionary mechanism. So it has to be very, very, very specific. As I said to you, they tested over 1,000 different extracts, and only two stimulated this evolutionary pathway. So, yes, we do know it's actually interesting because if you have bitters were an aperitif before a meal to get you hungry. If you actually have bitters in your stomach, it will stimulate ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone.
Yes.
Because your brain is saying you could have eaten something not too good for you. So I'm going to get you to eat more to dilute that effect.
Wow.
So once again, in Italy, you'll have an aperitif, which is usually a bittering sort of agent. And that's what it's doing, is getting you to be hungrier. We don't want you to be hungrier. So we're getting those extremely bitter down to your upper digestive tract, which is then stimulating these L cells.
Interesting. Interesting. All right. Well, thank you for sharing the science. This has been such a fascinating conversation for me, Sarah. Thank you for bringing all this beautiful knowledge to my community and to the show. Where can people find out more? First of all, where can people find out more about Calocurb, but where can they find out more about you as well?
Oh, so I'm just Sarah.Kennedy at Calocurb. You'll find me on LinkedIn, and you can see all my background and actually why I talk about protein so much. Before I founded this company, I actually worked for the largest dairy company in New Zealand called Fonterra, and I was head of R&D. So that's why. So I actually had $100 million a year to spend on R&D, and that's why I'll talk about protein and dairy protein so much and sarcopenia, because it was just such a passion of mine with protein. And then I founded Calocurb. And I'll tell you a little bit of a personal story, because every person every founder has a personal story. I had, up until I was presented this science, Amarisate, up until then, I had yo-yo dieted my whole life. Like many women, but it's personal to yourself. I had a love-hate relationship with food. I loved it, but I hated it. I'd yo-yo diet. I'd yo-yo when I'd eat food and then I'd hate myself for doing that. So I've been taking Calocurb for 6 years now, and it has absolutely changed my relationship with food. I now have, I'm now at peace with food. I say that to people. I'm happy. I eat, but I just don't eat as much. So, I take mine usually in the morning about 9 or 10, and I intermittent fast, and that'll like see me right the way through to lunch or after lunch. And then I sometimes take it. Remember, I've been on it for 6 years, and I'm happy where I'm at. But I sometimes take it in the late afternoon if I'm going to eat late. Say I'm going out to a cocktail party and then dinner afterwards. I don't want to get to that cocktail party and just eat all of those hors d'oeuvres. I'll be like yum 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 because I'll be hungry. So
Yes.
it's just helping me with that. And remember that little hindbrain is always telling you, hey, you could be going into a famine. So how do you get Calocurb? In the US, it's www.calocurb, CALOCURB.com. And we're almost like within a month will be approved in Canada. So
Awesome.
We will be bottling and labeling in Canada for Canadian people. So in the US, just go straight to the US site. And it's still at the moment in Canada, you'll have to go straight to, you'll have to go to the American site, but it will be in about a month or so.
Oh, amazing. Probably by the time this episode drops for people, it should be available. So,
Oh, I
uh,
hope so. I hope so.
yes, fingers crossed.
Interesting. Canada is about as difficult as Australia. Australia took me 4 years
Yes,
to get through.
Health Canada gets their fingers in there, dude, don't they? As long as we don't have this tariff business, we can still order things up from the US. And of course, we can still do it with the tariffs. But let's not go
Yeah.
there. We can solve, Sarah, you and I can solve some things, but that is not one of them.
Yeah, we'll just stick with helping keep our sisterhood healthy. How do we do that?
Yes, absolutely. I love it. I love it. Okay, I have questions that I ask my guests that are the final questions of our little chat, and I've got a couple for you actually. I would actually like you to tell us, as you have already told us that you've already been through the menopause transition. I keep hearing, Sarah, that it gets better on the other side of all this symptoms. Please tell us that's true. Give us some hope.
Yes, it does. And women will hate me for that. I'm the same size now as I was at 25.
Oh,
So
amazing. Tell us
it is,
how. Calocurb.
it is absolutely possible. And, just take one more of that stress out of your brain, one more of those noise. I don't have to think about it all the time. It is great. I don't know. I'm really at peace with myself, and I kind of wish sometimes I'd had that 20 years ago. And those are all of things that the hormones and the drive and all of those things. Yes, yes, I will tell you, it is great. It is absolutely great. I feel great. I'm happy. I feel in control of my life. So, God, I should never say that, don't you? I'm tempting that little devil on my shoulder by saying that. But, in this particular space, Fiona, I've
Yeah.
loved talking to you. But yes, I am, and it is good. I am happy.
Sarah, that makes me so happy as I'm still in my own perimenopause, edging closer and closer to the meadow all the time. What I found is interesting for me, especially I'm 51, I'll be 52 this summer. As I get to the closer to menopause, the less I care about the stuff that used to worry me and keep me awake at night, and the more into myself I am. Does that make sense?
Yes, and look, all of those things, and many women will laugh with us. And the fact, I look in my cupboards and I think, why did I always need all of those dishes? Why did I need all of those things? You become more about, I always think life is in these cycles. You build a household, you build all of these things, then you get to a certain age, go, no, no, I don't want all of those things. No, why did I need, 20 pairs of shoes where I really just want to wear my sand shoes because they're comfortable? I look at these fabulous young women in these incredible high shoes and I just go, ooh, uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable. Totally. Well, thank you for that, because I know for me, that has been so helpful. The wise women who are ahead of me in life experience saying, sister, it gets so much better. Just hold on. I know it kind of sucks right now. It's going to get so much better. So thank you for that. Also, final question. Knowing what you know now, what would you tell your younger self?
Oh, look, you think of that often. What would I tell my younger self? Don't, and everyone says it, but you never realize it. Don't sweat the small stuff. And then the other thing, my mother used to say, you're sweating your small stuff. And she'd go, oh, just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. Enjoy your lovely skin. Enjoy that. Because you go, oh, I'm fat, or I've got this, or I've got something. She'd say, enjoy it. And then we used to say, oh, those horrible men, they wolf whistled. And she'd go, you will miss it when they don't wolf whistle. So enjoy it. Don't sweat the small stuff. And it's easy to say, but just remember, just take yourself out of it and go, no, I'm not going to. I'm going to enjoy this.
Oh, I love it. That's such good advice. It gets way simpler. I love it. I love it. Your
And if
mom
it all
was
gets
right.
too much, pour that beautiful glass of wine and sit down and enjoy it with your pussycat.
No problem. I might just do that right now, even though it might not be an appropriate time for it. I might just do it right
Well, don't deny yourself that and
now.
just have
Yes.
that time. And yes, that would be mine.
Fantastic. Sarah Kennedy, CEO and founder of Calocurb. Thank you for joining me on the show today.
Oh, it's been lovely. Thank you so much, Fiona. I've really enjoyed it.
Yes, me too. Take care, Sarah. The information and other content provided in this show, or in any linked materials, is not intended and should not be construed as medical advice, nor is the information a substitute for professional medical expertise or treatment. We are doctors, but we aren't your doctor. Seek your doctor's opinion. If you or any other person has a medical concern, you should consult with your healthcare provider or seek other professional medical treatment. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something that you have heard in this podcast or in any linked materials. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or emergency services immediately. The opinions and views expressed on this page and in this show have no relation to those of any academic, hospital, health practice, or other institution. Thank you.